Hello friends, in this session we will talk about final keyword. First, let's try to understand what was the requirement to have final keyword in Java. So the requirement was pretty straight and simple, that once we define something, that should not be modified or changed, and that is why Java developers introduced the concept of final keyword in Java programming language. First, let's talk about final variable in Java. So as you can see, I have created one class called final keyword, and in this class I have created one integer type variable called a, and we have initialized it with 10. So once you will define final keyword at the time of creating any variable, so the value of that variable will be initialized only once, and you can initialize the final variable in three ways. First, at the time of creating the variable. Second, in class constructor. Third, in instance initializer block. Let's check each of them in detail with the help of Eclipse. So as you can see, I have already initialized our final variable with 10, and as it is instance variable, so we will be required to create object first, and as you can see we have created it and we have named it as obj, and with the help of object we have printed the value of a. Now let's execute the code to see the output. So as you can see, it gave us 10. So this was the first way. And now if you do not want it to initialize your final variable at the time of creation, you can initialize it in class constructor while simply writing like this. So we have saved our code. Now let's execute and see the output. Okay, so this time we got 20, and now we will initialize our variable inside instance initializer block. So let's execute the code, and this time we got 30. Okay, so now let's talk about the possibility if we will not initialize our final variable and what it will do. As you can see, it is giving us the error. Let's go through of it. So it says blank final field may not have been initialized because there were only three possibilities or three ways to initialize this final variable, either at the time of creating this variable, second in the constructor, third in the instance initializer. So if we haven't initialized it in any of these three ways, then we will not be able to initialize our final variable. Let's remove this. So it is giving us the error message that we will not be able to achieve the initializations of this variable. Now let's try to initialize it with the help of object of our class like this. So as you can see, this is giving us the error, and it is saying the same thing, that final keyword dot a cannot be assigned. As it is final variable, you cannot assign it like this. So this time we will change the value of a to 10 like this. Now you must have got the idea, like when you should create final variable, when the value should not be changed in the program, and if you do not want it to initialize your final variable at the time of creation, then you have two ways to initialize it, either in constructor or in instance initializer block. Now let's talk about final method in Java. So as you can see, I have created one class called a, and inside of this class I have created one method called message, and as this method is final, so the behavior of this method should not be changed. So what I have done, I have simply extend this class with the help of extends keyword, and now I will copy this method inside of our final keyword class to check whether we can override this or not. So as you can see, we cannot override any final method in Java. So we can only use those methods, and you already know, like if you wanted to use any instance method, you can do it while simply extending that class or while creating the class object. And I wanted to show you something, like if this will not be a final method, and if we will be override our method, and if we will define it as final, will it work or not? So to check this, what we will do, we will call this method with the help of object. So let's execute the code. And yes, you can do that if you are having any default method in some another class, and after overriding that method, if you wanted to define it as final, yes, you can do that. And same thing can be done with static methods. So if you are having any method as a static, and if you are overriding it in some another class, then you can make it as final. There will be no issue. You are getting this warning because as it is static method, it is giving us the warning to access this method with the reference of their class name. If you will change this obj with class name, then the warning has been removed. Okay, so now you must have got the idea, like we can only access the final methods, we cannot change its behavior in any way. Now let's talk about final class in Java. So to make you understand this, I will change the behavior of this class from default to final. And after changing it, as you can see, we are getting one error, and the error says final keyword class cannot subclass the final class A because the final class properties cannot be changed. And as we already know that if we do not wanted to change any property of that class, then we should not be extend that class. We can simply create the object of that class and we can access all of their properties. To access their properties, what we will be required to create the object first of that class, and after that, with the help of the object of that class, we will be able to call their properties. So it is giving us the warning because we have message method as static. So if we will execute our code, so let's check the output. So as you can see, we are getting 10 hello hello. One hello is coming from this method. So if we will change this from hello to hello 1, then we will get 10 hello 1 and hello. So now you must have got the idea, like when you should use final keyword at the time of creating variable, methods and class in Java. So there is one more point, like we also called final class as immutable class in Java. So you must have heard like string is an immutable class. Why? Because Java people have defined string class as final. So this was all about the final keyword. I hope you must have enjoyed. Please stay tuned and happy learning.